Good morning, everyone. Another beautiful morning. And I see some people wearing some new things today after the clothing swap, new accessories. It's fantastic. And we'll be saying more about that later. Thank you all for coming. You've picked a really good day to come. I think we have a really interesting service for you today with a lot of different components to it. Just before we get into it, though, I want to attract your attention to our opening slide, this one here. Janie gets word of what the service is going to be about kind of weeks in advance, and she picks an image that she thinks kind of works with it. And when she found this one, I said, "How's this?" I said, "Janie, you are a genius." I said, "That image is so much better than you even know." And she said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah. Do you see what's going on here?" I said, look at the canopy. Do you see how the branches are crowding in on one another but not actually touching? There's like a space between their fingertips that makes this amazing pattern that looks like the blueprint of the universe. That little buffer of space they keep from one another, that has a name. That's called crown shyness. Crown shyness. And a hat tip to my writer pal Curtis Gillespie, who told me about this phenomenon of nature. And Janie said, why do they do that? And I said, no one knows, really. It could be that the trees are protecting each other from the spread of disease or harmful insects. It could be that they're maximizing photosynthesis. You know, it's like Leonard almost said, there are cracks in the forest, that's how the light gets in. Well, whatever's going on, it appears to be an act of collectivism. I was going to say an act of generosity. The trees are being unselfish. They're working not as individuals, but as an interdependent system. So the reflection that you're going to hear later today is about a woman who kind of came to the same discovery that crown shyness is all around us. And as people get older and wiser, we tend to make the shift from sort of fierce independence to kind of humble interdependence. You know, we stop grasping, we retract our claws, we pull back our limbs to let the sunlight into the whole grove. Can you feel it? It's happening right here in this space, I would say. So now we're going to sing a bit to get the sap running. You're going to see, some of you will note that we initially had a different song, This Little Light of Mine, but due to a funny communication error, we have Come, Come, Whoever You Are, which everybody knows and is easy to sing. And take it away, Pavel.
Come, come, whoever you are, wander, worship, lover, and leaving, there is no caravan of despair. Come, let the King come. Come, come, whoever you are, wander, worship, lover, and leaving, there is no caravan of despair. Come, yeah, the King come. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Let the worship love and leave always no caravan of despair. Come, yeah, the King come. Come, come, whoever you are, wander, worship, love, and leave always no caravan of despair. Come, yeah, again, come.
Thank you, Pavel. Pavel's very gamely stepped up at the last minute to take Allison's place. She's sick on Bowen, and that is actually the reason for the miscommunication. It was quite funny. We had intended to sing hymn 118, and Allison kind of croaked out from her sick bed, 118, and Pavel heard 188. And so then, 10 minutes ago we were changing the lyrics and thing. Anyway, we hope Allison is better soon, and thank you for everybody who stepped in her stead. Alrighty, welcome again. Lovely to see you all. My name's Bruce Grierson, and I'm your service coordinator this morning here at North Shore Unitarian Church, where, as an ongoing mission, we nudge each other to live lives of depth, meaning, and purpose. So in this faith, we light a chalice at the beginning of each service. The flame represents, among other things, the light of reason, the hygge of community, and the energy of hope. This morning I've asked a very special guest who's actually not a guest at all. She's a pillar of the community. Sonia has been coming through these doors for nigh on 35 years. And there's another reason that I've asked Sonia up here today, but we'll get to that in a moment. But first, the chalice lighting. Shall we do this together, Sonia? We'll light the chalice together? Okay. There you go. We're going to hold it together. We'll go right straight into the flame. Straight out of here. We kindle this flame as a symbol of our gathering.
May the light of understanding illuminate our darkness. May the warmth of sharing bring us peace.
Awesome. All righty, thank you. Well, if you're just joining us for the first time today, a few details about NSUC. We are a lay-led congregation at the moment, meeting no minister. Instead, there's a small team of members who work with our stellar music director, Allison, to offer these services to you. In this faith, we celebrate people from all walks of life, no matter who you are or who you love. We hope you feel welcome here. And let me acknowledge that we're meeting here on this morning on the traditional unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. And in this region, that means the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh people, who were gathering in this community for many thousands of years before we were even a glimmer in the eye of the cosmos. We hold in trust our duty to be responsible stewards of these lands. Okay, a few more candles I'd like to light here this morning. This is where we do our candles of joys and sorrows, and this morning I'd like to flip it and do the sorrows first so we can move on to the joys. And there are some sorrows. It's my sad duty to report that June Han died in her sleep on Thursday night. She'd been ill for a while, but she was in good spirits at the end and able to have meaningful visits with a few people in this congregation who conveyed to her just how much she was loved by us. And she said the same back. Also, Vivian Himbo died on March 28th. And finally, I'd like to get you to keep Tricia Edgar's husband, Chris, in your thoughts. He's very, very sick at the moment. On the good news side, Janelle Hilton is improving, still in ICU, still not able to take visitors, but trending in the right direction. Also, Marie and Jim Bensley, I hope I'm not embarrassing anyone, but 66-year anniversary. Am I right about that? Okay. And now the biggest joy we save for last. I told you hadn't heard the last about Sonia in this service. And as some of you know, Sonia has a fairly important milestone birthday coming up this week. It's one of those round numbers, really round numbers. Sonia will be 100 this week. And if I may, Elaine, I'll call you up to just offer a little something to Sonia on this occasion.
Sonia Macro. Every time I think of you, there are certain words come to my mind. The first one is resilience. Pretty obvious as you reach your 100th birthday. But there are other qualities you have that are really special to this congregation. Those qualities include wisdom, beauty, and grace. You provide us, some of us, with a superb role model as we age. And with admiration for who you are and what you bring to this congregation, I want to, on behalf of everyone here and those that aren't here, wish you, with love, a very happy birthday.
Now, they say that you can tell the quality of a person by the company they keep. So Sonia says, your father used to say about this picture,
That's my daughter on the bike.
So if that adage is true, judge us by the company we keep, then we as a congregation come out looking very good for having kept company with you all of these years. And, Stephen Atkinson used to say, just flat out, Sonia, you are a miracle. And I think that's absolutely true. So when you came in this morning, you should all have received a candle. And there are 100 candles in play here. And so what we're going to try to do is get those candles lit in sort of an orderly fashion that doesn't attract the fire marshal here, and up onto stage. So the way this is going to work is we have two of our lovely candle people who are going to be standing one on each side, kind of near the galvanized buckets there, and they're going to be holding their candle straight up. And we're going to file in a systematic way here, starting on the wings. So if you're sitting on this wing, you're going to come up these stairs and negotiate on this side of the stage, and same with that side. So we'll do the two wings first. Once you've lit your candle, kind of just file back around and back down to your seat. And then we're going to start in the middle area, and we're going to alternate so that the first row is going to go up the left side, second row is going to go up the right side, until we have all the candles lit, and they're going to stay lit for the service. Okay? So if everybody feels like they know what they're going to do, we won't sing, after the candles are lit, we won't sing Happy Birthday to Sonia. We're going to keep that for downstairs where there's cake. But so all you need to do is concentrate on, and as you come in with your candle, kind of come in at an angle, and they're going to keep their candle straight up, and that way nobody gets hot wax dripped on their hand, if we're lucky. And Yasha, have I explained that right? And so if you find that you have a candle, but you don't feel you want to or can come up here on stage, pass your candle to someone who looks hale and hearty and eager. And one way or the other, we'll get them all lit, okay? So if you feel like ready to go, let's start. And Catherine, you can do a little background music for us while this happens.
church where I don't trust myself necessarily.
Well, I count 100. Thank you for raising Sonia up and raising us all up in the bargain. And now I'm going to count on the choir to raise us up even further. righty. Well, I'm going to tell this story in two parts, and in between we're going to do a little exercise, a little meditation, because I think we might need it to decompress. Because the first part of the story is a little bit intense, but I assure you that the sunshine does come on later. Okay. So do you remember what you were doing on March 18th, 2017? Probably not. We forget 90% of our days, actually, it turns out. But my friend Verna Marzo isn't likely to forget what happened to her on that night, actually. So she checked into Foothills Hospital in Calgary for what everyone thought was a fairly routine medical procedure. She had a cyst on an ovary that doctors thought was nothing to worry about, but turned out actually to be something to worry about. It had grown and likely ruptured, and Verna was very soon under the surgeon's knives. And Verna was in her early 40s at this point, and she decided that she's probably not going to have children, so she was like to the doctors, do what you have to do. They were recommending a hysterectomy. Do what you have to do. Just make the pain go away, please. You know that old parable about where the news just keeps getting worse and worse, and what you thought was bad news sort of now seems like peanuts next to what's about to happen, what keeps happening? Well, that's the way things were going for Verna on that day. So the next day after the hysterectomy, she wasn't any better. She was worse. Turned out that she'd gotten an infection, which became sepsis. Her body was now in septic shock. And that's like when your immune system's kind of confused and in overdrive, and now this sickness was like a forest fire just racing through her, and her organs were starting to fail. So Verna's friends and family who'd gathered at the hospital now were told that her chances of even surviving at this point were about 10%. And then that number was downgraded to about 2%. And the family and friends are going to the doctors, you got to save her, Is there nothing you can do? They say, well, there is, but it's extreme. So Verna's her tissues weren't getting oxygen, so she was effectively dying from the extremities on in. And the only way to stop the necrosis was to amputate. And her friend said, how many limbs are we talking about here? The doctors were. So at this point, Verna's in a coma, and the doctors summon the family for a consult. And they say, here's what we're looking at. We can try to save this life, but how badly do you want to save it? Like, what does the future hold for this person? And, given the way things are looking here. And at this point, everyone in the room is privately asking themselves, if this were me, would I want to be saved? And by the way, every minute that passes here, that everyone's deliberating, the ischemia is racing toward her joints, so any delay now might scupper her chances of being a suitable candidate for an artificial limb. So it became clear that in this is an impossible call, but there's really only one person who can make it, and that is Verna herself. And so she's lightened up from sedation. She's brought out of her coma, enough that she can speak and listen. And the doctors lean in close and explain to her what has happened to her and the predicament she's in. And they ask some other questions to make sure she's compos mentis and actually can comprehend what she's about to decide. And she needs to understand she's at a fork in the road here, big time, and either way, there's no going back. Sartre said humans have really only one decision in life that counts, and that is whether to go on living. For Verna, whichever way this tipped, insane courage was going to be required right now. And I think you know her choice, otherwise the story would be over. When she came to, it took Verna a while to re-enter the world. Think of how you come out of a nightmare, but in this case it was like waking up from a nightmare into another nightmare. Her first thought, and this is how she reconstructed it later, her first thought was, I'm alive. Am I alive? I think I'm alive. She can tell she's in a room. She can move her eyes enough to look around. White walls. She's alone in a bed. She looks down the length of her. Her right arm is bandaged. It's weirdly short. Her left arm is gone. And lower down, she can see the outline of her legs under the cream-colored blanket. And this is bizarre because they end. Wild panic now that she fights to bring under control. And I can't reproduce exactly what happened in her mind because even she couldn't explain it to me with precision. But what happened at this point was reality starts to sink in, and she remembers having been asked, "What do you want to do?" and replying, "I want to live." That's why she's still here. And now she's going, "Oh my God, what have I done?" And a darkness that she will come to call the enemy engulfs her. And she dials up a prayer. I should tell you that Verna is a woman of faith. And I should also tell you that she and I just finished writing a book together about her life, and faith is a big part of it. And a challenge for me was that her faith as a Christian is a fair bit different than my faith as a Unitarian. More on that in a moment. But right now, Verna's alone in the room, trying to keep the black dogs at bay. And her next move is to try to strike another deal with her God. And she says, "God, I'm sure there's another person here in the hospital who is right on the brink and who wants desperately to live. I'm asking you to let them live and take me instead." Night comes. Next morning, she's still here. Days pass. She does not get her wish. And so a different conversation emerges. She says, "Okay, looks like I'm here to stay, at least for now. I wonder why." So in the weeks that follow, Verna slowly comes to grips with what this new life is going to be like, with this person she is now. Who is she going to be? And this person is in some ways a totally different person. A third of her body weight is gone. She's awakened in the night by jolts of pain from extremities that are no longer there. To live now, just to function day to day with no hands and no feet, will mean relearning every basic thing, from eating to sleeping to going to the bathroom. And she tells her sister in a voice that barely makes it out of her throat, "It's like being a baby all over again." Okay, I want us to take a moment here. I don't know if you've noticed, but it feels like gratitude is no longer a fashionable thing to evoke. Especially, I feel like, especially on the left, it feels like people are turning against gratitude as a thing to obsess on because it's not tough, right? It's soft and squishy. The poet Kaveh Akbar put it like this: "Gratitude can seem like, quote, a luxury, a topless convertible driven through a rainless life." It's seen as kind of tin-eared to the current moment, which calls for something tougher, bared teeth, and charging into the fight. But I'm here today to defend gratitude. If ever there was a defensible gratitude prime, it is the story of Verna. So I'm going to invite you to sit quietly. Close your eyes if you like. Just sit quietly in your body, your functioning body, all the pieces there mostly. Think about your body from the waist down. Pay attention to your legs, neatly angled there as you sit. Think of some of the things you do just unconsciously with your feet, like smoothly depressing the accelerator to merge into traffic, going up on tippy toes to reach the peanut butter, turning the bathtub faucet on with your toes when the water's nice and warm and high. Take a moment to appreciate those feet of yours, the fine mechanisms in there. A quarter of all the bones in your body are in your feet. Your feet are strong enough to carry the weight of an elephant if the rest of you could handle it. Now, move up to the top half of you. Think of your arms. Feel them there at your sides. Turn your palms up. Give your fingers a wiggle. Think of how many tiny pleasures in life involve the fingers. Picking raspberries, eating popcorn at the movies, snapping your fingers, strumming a guitar, stopping your bicycle by squeezing the brakes, jotting down a line of a poem you want to remember, chopsticking up a California roll, typing, shaving, popping a champagne cork, poking a campfire with a marshmallow stick, wiping a tear off a little kid's cheek with your pinky. Think of how your hands are little bodyguards, how when you trip, you instinctively bring them up in front of your face and there they are for you. Or how they rise unbidden to slap a mosquito. There's a German word, Fingerspitzengefühl. It means having the sensitivity of a sandpapered fingertip. Your hands are the fine antennae into the world for you. Sandra and Gary Robinson, if they were here, would say your hands can detect the energy that's around you, around all of us coming off each other. The laying on of hands is a healing act in about 3 different ways. I try not to feel sorry for myself, Verna said, but yeah, sometimes I reflect on the things I will never feel again. Like, when you cradle a cup of tea in your palms and you feel the warmth of it going right into you, or when you scratch a dog under the chin. Verna had long hair in the before times, but she couldn't really wash it anymore, another foregone pleasure. So she asked her friend Leah to cut it short. And now Verna couldn't run her fingers through her hair anymore, so she said, in a strange sense, I lost track of what I looked like. Okay, just settle into your whole body now. Occupy it. As Verna says, she doesn't want you to feel pity for her, but she would not object to you leaning into your own appreciation of the miracle that is your body and what it can do. The other day I was peeling a pomelo, and it was taking forever because there's all those fussy little membranes getting in the way of enjoying the sweet fruit, and I was getting frustrated. And then I thought of Verna, and I realized what I'm doing here is astonishing. No robot could ever do it. No other animal could ever do it. I get to do it. How dare I curse the challenge of eating a pomelo? So Verna spent about a year in hospital. You're going to see her in a moment here. And then another year in rehab, learning basic life skills. And then one day she said to the receptionist at the long-term care facility where they had put her, I want to run. And this woman laughed in her face. She had pretty much written Verna off. She had no clue. She didn't know that all her life, Verna had been an action figure. She surfed. She climbed mountains. She was used to taking life in big gulps, and damned if she wasn't going to find a way to do that again. Despite the constraints, she knew she was still the same person inside there, just mismatched to this new body. And it was the body and not her that was going to have to adjust. Let's see if we can get her up here. Yeah, a lot of work, a lot of laughter, weirdly. So this is early days with the prosthetics at the Sheldon Chumere Center in Calgary. So now Verna's got these fancy cheetah blades that were a gift from the war amps, and she's, if you can believe it, she's training for a marathon. Now, let me ask you, if you had 10 minutes with this person, what kinds of questions would you want to ask her? What comes to mind? Any regrets about that decision you made? Yeah, and she would tell you sometimes. And sometimes, sometimes. For me, a big one was, how are you doing this? Like, what is driving you? How are you able to stay positive and mostly positive and full of purpose? What are you drawing from that I can't see? And I've concluded that the secret sauce of Verna's resilience comes down to three things: her sense of humor, her support systems, and her faith. So one of the very first times I met her, I noticed hanging on the wall of her apartment this poster. Be the kind of woman that when your feet hit the floor each moment, the devil says, "Oh crap, she's up." And the irony is Verna's feet don't hit the floor in the morning until she puts them on. Maybe that's her way of sneaking around the devil, I don't know. But good humor is a slippery thing, right? I think you're born with it mostly, and the rest you learn. Like Verna's parents and grandparents were hilarious. And there's a cultural element. I think the trademark Filipino sense of humor is kind of broad and a little bit politically incorrect, and she has that. But whatever it is, to be able to pull dark humor out of a personal tragedy, that is a huge boon if you have it and your life goes catastrophically sideways like this. Verna says, silliness is my most useful tool. She said, it breaks the ice around my disability. And it's true, when you think comedians are magicians, they turn anxiety into laughter. But Alan Watts said that that's the role of religion too. He said, that a religion is to be taken seriously when the priests or imams or lamas are laughing at each other across the aisle. If you laugh, you win, Verna says. If you laugh, you win. And by the way, the title I had proposed for the book of ours was Extremity. I thought that was... And she went, she preferred a little short, but I'm good for it. So we went with that. Okay, number 2 ingredient in the secret sauce here is support systems. When Verna was in the ICU, at her very lowest point, right in the 2% chance of surviving range, this was the single biggest factor in the decision about whether to save her life. The doctors huddled up and said, okay, who will be here for this person on the other side of all of this, on the other side of the operations? Who will be there and stay there? Because often a support network that's very enthusiastic at the beginning will fall away, and then you're in trouble. Someone like Verna needs ongoing support, and luckily she had it. A committed group of family and friends, mostly from her church, who dubbed themselves Team Verna, and they pledged to be there for the long haul. And not just for her physical needs, but for her spiritual ones as well, her existential ones. One friend, a psychologist named Charles, used a nice phrase. He said, "We are the keepers of her dreams." And then the other part of this is that Verna had to learn to accept help. Like a lot of us, she was very independent. She was ferociously independent her whole life, and that was just her nature. Her thing was always, I got this. But the truth is, we don't got this. Not entirely. None of us do. And we just can't do this alone. So Verna was going to have to learn to say, please, I need a hand over here. And that's no joke. The shift she had to make from independence to gracious interdependence, from I to we, is the big move we all have to make. And it gets back to the crown shyness we were talking about earlier, that we're individuals, yes, but we have to think of ourselves as a system. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay, the third and final element of Verna's holy trinity of resilience, in my opinion, is faith. So faith is a powerful tailwind. You don't need social science studies to prove it, although they do. This is your disposition on faith. It's happier. This is your lifespan on faith. It's longer. This is your chance of surviving when you're right on the bubble. It's better. This is your tolerance for pain that goes on and on. It's higher when you have faith. So for me, the big question is, whose faith? What kind of faith? And it's interesting, being pulled into Verna's orbit forced me to look at the differences in, I guess, our spiritual coordinates. So Verna's God is an active agent in her life, And Verna's position is, look, he must have his reasons that I in my mortal smallness cannot fathom, right? Her God is in the driver's seat for her. Unitarians tend not to give God or the universe that much power. The UU minister Sue Phillips said, if there is a God, why would she, he, they hand out grace and punishment so apparently randomly? What is the deal with this entity? Well, the deal is this entity is part of the story of the meaning we make for ourselves. He, she, they are kind of a holy spark that animates our ability to do that, our desire to do that, to make meaning. They're a spur to figuring out or discovering for ourselves the contours of the morally driven life we're trying to carve out here for ourselves. So you might ask, as I have about Verna and I, why have our paths crossed here? Like, if you believe that people tend to show up in each other's lives for some reason, just when they're needed in some way, what is the exchange here? I met Verna because she was a close friend of my sister Wendy's. And I got to know her and write a story about her for Reader's Digest, a piece that went all around the world in the international editions, and I realized I'd been drafted into Team Verna in a sense. This was my role for her in her life. And then hers in mine, I think maybe she's nudging me to examine my own spirituality. Is it sturdy enough? And does it matter for the purposes of our collaboration that it's not quite like hers? So here's a kind of crazy idea I'm toying with. What if her style of Orthodox Christianity and my style of sort of super liberal Unitarian Universalism are like chocolate and peanut butter? They're perfectly complementary. And maybe that's why we were brought together. You know, two lenses, one laid atop the other, the concentrated focus of hers and the wide angle of mine. One lens corrects for farsightedness and the other corrects for nearsightedness. And when you peer through the two of them, the world pops. And the idea emerges that humans, all of us, no matter our circumstances, are kind of wholly human prototypes. And this whole project is sacred, no matter where on the gradient of disability you fall. One of the most powerful things I've watched Verna do is very deliberately prop herself up in the shop window. She has vowed to destigmatize disability by making an example of herself. She said, I'm going to move through this space, among the crooked timber of humanity with dignity. Okay, so picture this. She starts making little trips out into the community. She goes to Chinook Mall for no other reason than to show herself off, to, quote, demonstrate that it's okay to look different. So there she is, browsing the display racks at Fairweather. She hits the food court, and a guy freezes mid-burrito as she swans by, which delights her. It's like, what are you looking at, pal? I'm not so different from you. It's just that the parts I'm missing are more obvious than the parts that you're missing. In some ways, she has made her life an indictment of the idea of victimhood. Not of unfairness, not of injustice, but of victimhood, that stance that says, I have no power here. Because when you label someone a victim, you basically strip them of their personhood. Verna told me that the moral of her, if you can put it that way, is what one person can do, another person can do. She's going, you can be inspired by me, but there's nothing particularly special about me. I am a mirror. And that is a radical thing to say. And to me, it resonates with Unitarianism in the following way. When we de-elevated Jesus from a deity to a good man, a wise teacher, but a mortal being, we scandalized a lot of Christians who basically kicked us out of the clubhouse. But it opened up a marvelous opportunity, and that's how I interpret the idea of that we all have a spark of the divinity in us. In the same way, if Verna isn't a saint, but just a really strong-willed woman running a lemonade stand here, then she's showing us that the sky's the limit for the human spirit. The Jesuit friar Richard Rohr said, I asked God for certainty, and he gave me relationships instead. I'll take that. I'll take that substitution. I don't want certainty. I want people in my life who I can be uncertain with. I hitched a ride with Verna, and I glimpsed the face of grace. And I got a sneak preview of the place where we're all heading. There's a great line by Kevin Kling, who's a storyteller. You sometimes hear him on NPR. And he has a disability after having a motorcycle accident as a young man. And he says, being able-bodied is always only a temporary condition. You know, infirmity is coming for all of us if we're lucky. And the gift is to get that message again and again, like a pop-up ad in your social media feed. We need people to remind us that our time here is short, and we really only have one job, and that is to live. To live so fully and so generously that when we rise to meet the morning, the devil says, "Oh crap, they're up." Thank you. For the entire month of April, the charity we're supporting is Oceanwise. It's a very fine NGO dedicated to sustainable and environmentally sound fishing strategies. Please give as generously as you're able. Would the ushers please come forward? For all the gifts you give, for all the ways you give, for all the ways you give of your time and your treasure and your talent and everything you do for this community, we are so appreciative. Thank you. Announcements. So please stick around after the service if you're able, and some important things are happening down there. I've mentioned cake, and the celebrating of Sonia continues. It's also Super Sunday and soup day, so chow down with a suggested donation of $5. Following lunch, please come back up to the sanctuary here for a town hall meeting, and this is your chance to give the Sunday service team some feedback about what you've seen so far, what you'd like to see more of, what you'd never like to see again, and generally how you feel about our plan moving forward for the coming year here. This beautiful sand that you see in these galvanized buckets, in case you're wondering, came from Ambleside Beach. This beach is lovely because people like you keep it that way. Next Saturday, April 20th, is a beach cleanup event down there. Please bring your own reusable gloves, buckets, and bags. Still with environmental news, next week is our Earth Day service Marcia Stevenson, head of the Environmental Committee, will moderate a panel with some esteemed invited guests. We'll hear good news and compelling stories from people in our community working on solutions to the problems that bedevil our planet. And now, as we approach the landing runway, let's sing our final congregational hymn of the day. And those who are hoping for Bing Crosby and Irving Berlin, because that was in the order of service and we couldn't get it out of there in time, Bing got bumped for a song more in keeping with the theme of the day, which is that life sucks and life is awesome. Both are true, and you never know what the next tide will bring. It's hymn number 394. We laugh, we cry, and we're going to do verses 1, 3, and 4. But you don't have to worry about that because the words will be up on the screen if we're lucky. So gratitude. And I don't feel like Yasha and Jean have been sufficiently thanked for putting on that amazing clothing swap yesterday. That took so much work. It was an amazing community builder. I'm also thankful to all the people involved in bringing you this service today, from Yasha for her keen eye up here, what she pulled off here. And Carrie in the booth, and Malcolm on video, and the greeters, the ushers, and Diane on the soup ladle downstairs. I'm grateful to all of the newcomers here. Thank you for trying us out. And the canopy of gratitude spreads farther, wider, beyond this congregation, beyond this faith, beyond this culture. We are a system. As individuals alone, we don't got this. As an interlocking, interdependent network with cracks to let the light in, we got this. We do. It's a privilege to be here with you. Thank you so much for coming. Let's close down the chalice. We extinguish this flame.
But there is us the light of vision and the warmth of hope.
The world calls us to live with depth, meaning, and purpose.
We go forth with courage and love.
And our closing song now.